go ahead and have your attention, please. Go ahead and call the May 2017 Lowndes County Democratic Party meeting to order. Please stand for pledge of allegiance and remain standing for a moment of silence as we look at our transportation workers. The flag is sort of here, but we know where it's at. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. Thank you. Please be seated. Housekeeping detail. We forgot to approve, and I take responsibility for it, the March committee meeting minutes that we had at the office on Slade Street. We discussed it, but we forgot to approve those minutes. So before we approve the April minutes from last week, I need to entertain a motion to approve the March committee minutes from
That's what I moved.
Second. I've done a motion made and properly second. We approve the committee minutes from the March meeting. All in favor say aye. Aye. All opposed, same sign. Motion carried. Now, does anybody have a copy of the April minutes? Anybody need a copy? You probably haven't had a chance to review in detail the minutes, but we need to go ahead and entertain a motion to approve the April minutes of our party meeting. Is there a motion to that effect?
Motion to approve the April minutes.
There's a motion made to approve the April minutes in a second. There's a proper motion in a second. All those in favor say aye. Aye. All opposed, same sign. Thank you. Jim, you ready to give a financial report?
Yeah. Yes. All right. We began the month with a grand total of $181.58, and we ended the month with $61.58. And we are very much in need of contributions at this time.
I think we forgot to pass the hat next meeting.
Yeah, we did, and I forgot to bring my hat with me. But anyway, so all contributions are appreciated. You can just see me after the meeting.
What was it?
What's that?
What was the meeting? How much?
Beginning of the month was $181.58. The end of the month is $61.58.
I noticed that a couple people had paid by PayPal. Is that,
We have a small amount of money in PayPal.
my question was, does that come to you? You get notification?
Eventually, but not yet.
It does eventually come in, but we hold it in PayPal in case there's something we need to, and then when we save up a bunch, we transfer it to the checking account.
Okay. Motion to approve the treasury report. Financial report.
So moved.
Second. All in favor say aye. Aye. All opposed, same sign. We are blessed to have two, that's all we see is two elected officials with us tonight. City Councilwoman Sandra Tooley and City Councilwoman Vivian Cody Miller. Miller Cody. I just went through the NFL draft, so I'm already in football mode, so you know, thank you for having on. Yeah, Miller Cody, I'm sorry, baby.
It's okay with me, but it's not okay by us.
I understand that part. So I'm gonna ask them if they'd like to have anything to say to address the group at this time.
I'm just happy to be here. Happy to see so many people out in the rainy weather.
Yeah, I don't think we're coming out of the rain. For a moment, I thought we were gonna get a downpour for a long time. I was looking at the radar, so we were moving pretty swiftly through. That's a good thing. we need rain. Officers report. Dennis will give us a report on the elections.
Two important things to report. Talked before about boards and commissions. This is a good way to get involved in the community without having to run for office, so to speak. There are 2, 4, 6, 8, 10 boards and commissions for the city of Valdosta that have openings. Everything from the Community Development Block Grant to the Tree Commission. There's a list of them up front. Please take one. The deadline for applying is the day after tomorrow, 5 o'clock Wednesday. And then then the city council will decide the following week who gets the appointment. Again, the Lowndes County Democratic Party really focuses locally on getting folks involved, getting them to vote, getting them to run for office, but sort of halfway between voting and running for office is serving on one of these boards and commissions. So it's a good opportunity to get involved. These boards and commissions are advisory to the city council, so it's a way to, if you have an interest or an expertise in historic preservation or trees or whatever, this is a good way to get involved. So please volunteer for these opportunities, and deadline again, 5 o'clock on Wednesday. Second thing I want to report on is every month I go to the Board of Elections meeting to listen to what they're doing and to provide input from us. One of the things that we've been talking about since the last election, actually previously, is that some of the precincts have an awful lot of people in them, and the lines don't go as quickly as we'd all like them to go. So the board is taking a look at reconfiguring some of the precinct boundaries. There's no change here in early voting dates or anything of that sort. It's changing the precinct boundaries. We're looking for public input, and so I'm going to turn it over to Deb, who is the best supervisor of elections in the state of Georgia.
There are forms on the table. The early voting is not changing. The absentee by mail is not changing. The ability to vote in any precinct you want to is not changing. The only thing we're looking at doing is adjusting the lines for the precincts if you wait until the last day. And honestly, the only reason we even have that is because the law requires it. The bill came up last year to eliminate that because we're already voting in any precinct. It really doesn't matter. But it did not get through in time. It's going to come up again this year, so it may be a moot point by the time we get around to doing it. But if you have any suggestion, not just precinct numbers, because we're here to do what you want. This is for you, okay? Grab one of those forms, fill it out, and get it back to you. One of the things we want to do is clean up the lines before redistricting. As redistricting comes up in 2020, they'll pull our data next year. As a matter of fact, we're towards the end of this year, and they start drawing their lines based on our precinct lines. Of course, they generally deviate so far off they're unrecognizable, but I will give them the opportunity to try and get some things in tandem. We've got things like we follow power lines in one place because of the legislature, and another place we follow underground pipes. We've got to get rid of those. So if you have any input whatsoever, stop by the office, have a bad cup of government coffee, glass of water, email us, fax, call, fill out a form, drop in and see us, any of the above. We're taking input all month before we discuss it here.
Thank you, Deb. Any questions or comments for Dennis or Deb?
I discovered something astonishing on the LownDesCounty.com page. They actually have an application form if you want to be on a board. Right now I can't find it again, but I'm sure I saw it. And it did say which boards have vacancies, but it's a step forward.
I just want to echo something Deb said, and also Dennis. It's important that we participate in these programs. Oftentimes we like to criticize after decisions have been made. But we got to be more proactive in and get involved. That's one of the reasons we haven't had the results I think that we need as Democrats, is because we've been sitting back, letting other people make decisions that affect our lives, and when they make decisions that benefit them, we want to criticize it. Now we have a chance to be an active participant in these programs and make sure that our concerns are met, or at least addressed. So it's important that we do not only the boards and commission, but this redistricting precinct lines program too, because that's critical. I know that if you look at the city of Valdosta's precinct lines, I was told since Councilman Tooley's here, she's from District 2, and Councilman Middleton thinks the same thing. Those lines, they run from the north end of Valdosta all the way down to the south side of Valdosta. And it just, to me, is ridiculous how they can go almost the entire length of the city limits. And it just, to me, it doesn't make any sense. And it needs to be looked at. This is our chance to do it.
I have an elections question. When is qualifying?
Well, that was next on the agenda. I don't see James and Plant, but
Sorry.
I'm glad you brought it up. Dennis, you want to? Deb?
Qualifying will be in August, I think. I'm not positive exactly about the date. Seems like it's about the teen time. I can let y'all know that though, but it's a good ways off. But that doesn't prevent somebody from filling out candidate paperwork to accept campaign contributions and campaigning now. You don't have to wait until then. Just stop by the office. It's one little tiny form. That's all you got to do. Takes you 3 minutes, I promise. And we'll give you all the info you need for campaigning, and she can tell you. Anything else you need, just holler. But you can start right now. You do not have to wait until qualifying. Qualifying is just a nominal date to get a name on the ballot. But I would not wait if you wanted to wait.
All right, you know, one of the platforms we had as a party was transportation. And we're fortunate and honored tonight to have a man who has all the answers to the transportation concerns we have, not only proposed bypass and proposed public transportation system, but something to me is going to be even more important is the T-SPLOST proposal, and that's Corey Hull. Corey's been active and working on transportation issues for a long time here in Valdosta, so he's a subject matter expert, and I'm going to turn the program over to him for his presentation. And he said he'll stay around for questions if you have some, but I think you're going to be very intrigued what Corey has to say. So this time I want to present Mr. Corey Hull.
Thank you all very much for having me, and I have my notes on my phone because I have my notes printed, put my notes down and grab the umbrella, and so we got notes on the phone tonight. I'm going to, since there are probably dozens and dozens of questions about everything, I'm going to try to touch base on the truck bypass, the transit, and spend a little bit more time on the regional T-SPLOST, because that's kind of the hot topic of the moment. So as I'm kind of talking though, I'm going to hand out some my cards and then some information about public transit. These brochures came out last month from our office, so you may not have seen those yet. But feel free to take as many as you want. If you want more, we've got more where that came from. On truck traffic in downtown Valdosta, last year we hired Cambridge Systematics out of Atlanta to come down and look at truck traffic in downtown Valdosta and give us some recommendations for mitigating the impacts of truck traffic. They came back with several ideas that have been talked about before. Turning Savannah Avenue into a truck route, turning the CSX Railroad corridor into a truck route. And ultimately, what really kind of came out of this was something called the Gilharbin South Bypass Alternative. And this is where the community kind of seems to be drawn to. We're looking a lot more at. One of the reasons we're looking at this is to relocate the US 84 designation requires several checklists that the state DOT and the American Association of State Highway Transportation Officials, that's the national organization that designates federal highways, which US 84 downtown is. We have to meet certain minimum requirements to move that designation. And improving generally the Gilparvin corridor to a 4-lane highway with railroad bridges, with synchronized traffic signals, to have truck traffic and other traffic along that corridor travel at higher speeds to bypass the downtown area. Is really kind of what we're looking at. We're really in a due diligence period. There's a lot of talk that needs to go into this, a lot of research yet. We're really just in the very early concept phases of what this might be. So the DOT is looking at that right now. On our website, and you have our website information on that information I just handed out. You can look up information on the downtown truck traffic options. There's a full page, or there's a full report that did not include Gilparvin, but then there's also a 6-page, just kind of talking points summary report that looks more at the Gilparvin alternative and the other alternatives. So that's something I encourage you to look at. I shared the link on the Facebook invite for this meeting. So, are there any initial questions about truck traffic?
What about funding? How much local funding do you involved?
We're really too early to determine who is going to pay for the funding. We're talking tens of millions, if not hundreds of millions of dollars for an improvement like that. And we're probably 15 to 20 years out. Unless the only way that it could really move much more quickly is if it were 100% locally funded. Because you could bypass a lot of federal regulations that way. So that's oh, I'm sorry, yes.
I'll be the straight one here. Downtown is not that very big. Okay, and main traffic with the big trucks is 84 coming from east to west, west to south. That's not, I don't see beneficial that be a big issue with truck going through downtown. Because there's not a lot of big trucks. I was downtown Saturday at the old courthouse, and there was quite a few trucks coming through, but they went straight through.
Right.
Now, to spend $10 billion for however much it's going to cost, $10 million to do this, and it's going to be many years out.
There
I
are.
thought that's what perimeter was for, was all those trucks to take the perimeter to the interstate versus going through downtown. Maybe if that was enforced more diligently, it would eliminate this issue.
Let me talk to a couple points there. US 84 is a federal highway. You cannot restrict any traffic on a federal highway. So there is no enforcement of making trucks use perimeter road. They are going to use the shortest distance between point A and B. That shortest distance is US 84.
Well, a bypass is the shortest way to the interstate. You're going to do a bypass, wouldn't that be longer?
Well, what you would do is you would turn US 84 downtown into a local road. Once you turn it into a local road, you can restrict truck traffic then. Right now, though, even if it's a longer way, you can travel at higher speeds, which is faster. And it's shorter time, even though it's a longer distance.
Corporation, if I'm trying to get my products somewhere faster, and I'm having to reroute my trucks, costs more fuel for the company. Why not relocate out of Valdosta?
It's not so much about the companies that are located in Valdosta, it's through truck traffic. Our report includes some information about between 75 and 85% of the truck traffic is through truck traffic. It's not stopping in Valdosta. So we're not even necessarily talking about local businesses. Over the next 20 years, we're projected to see a 40% increase in truck traffic by the year 2040. 40% increase in truck traffic. Right now, on average, there is a truck a minute through downtown. Yes.
This could be, I don't know if this is a stupid question, but is there any way to put a toll on a highway that's going through a town? Would that deter trucks, would that, because of the noise, the weight, the wear and tear on the road, would that deter trucks to these companies? I know, it's a ridiculous suggestion, but I was just thinking out of the box. I mean,
I guess there's not anything that says you can't do that. But I don't know that it's ever been done, so I don't know.
There's so much legislation, has to go to state, that's just too far.
I have a question. When they were doing the truck traffic study, did they find those trucks were going the speed limit?
We did not look at speed during that truck traffic study.
Okay, I noticed that there's some traffic counters down around town these days that we're counting. So that, I understand, counts speed?
Yes, with those tubes, you can count speed with those tubes, yes.
And so then it can tell what the size of the vehicle is and how fast it was going?
Yes,
If the trucks were speeding, could we issue them speeding tickets?
you technically can, yeah.
We'll have to take it back to council. Can I make one observation on something Dennis said? What bothers me more than anything, Dennis, talk about truck traffic, local truck traffic, I'm concerned with the cargo they're carrying more than anything. Dangerous and hot and hazardous cargo. Any local facility that handles stores, transport, hot hazardous cargo as defined by the Department of Transportation has to provide what's called material safety data sheet on how much they store, how much they produce, how much they take in on a 24-hour, 7-day-a-week basis for the whole year. So we know what's coming in locally. What scares me is you don't know who's transporting what on 84, where it's coming from, or there's a hazardous materials disposal site in Alabama. A lot of truck traffic coming from East Georgia or North Florida takes 84 to get to that part of Alabama. And you don't know what that cargo is. It could be anything. In one accident, you would have to evacuate at least a mile and a half in all directions. There's no way we're not physically set up to do that. So that's one of the things that scares me about truck traffic downtown. On a bypass around the city, it's less populated, so when that accident happens, chances are the environment's always a concern too, but I put people over the environment any day. But that's one of the things that concerns me about truck traffic. We got to move them out downtown because just too much can happen down there.
I think one thing is this is an ongoing discussion point in our community, and I encourage you to look at our website. There's the full report or just the talking point summary. To look more into that, and then in turn talk to your elected officials to voice what you want to see done. But really, we're at a very early stage for talking truck traffic, early concept. So this is going to be a long-term discussion for the community. Yeah.
This is a totally ignorant question, I have no clue. Is there any crossover in the funds between this project that everybody's talking about and a bus system for Lowndes County? Would there be any of those funds that are transferable across borders? Is that a totally separate pot?
No, not really. We're really talking two separate funding streams. Technically, you can transfer some funds between the two federal agencies, but there's some rules to that, and I'm not familiar with all those rules and strings that it carries when you do transfer. So, yes, but but not exactly.
Are there additional discussions being made about increasing the public transportation options here at Valdosta?
Well, let me move it from public transportation. Perfect segue.
How do other cities get around? Like Atlanta has a truck bypass. That's a large area. How do they get around? That's a question how we're going through there. 75 go right through. And trucks can't go downtown like that. How do they
Oh,
get
no,
away-
trucks do go right down through downtown land.
If they going into town? My
No,
understanding.
they are able to go straight through.
With no restriction.
Not on 75.
Hazardous materials does have some restrictions.
They can't go on 75, they have to take 285.
If they carry hazardous cargo.
If they carry white hazardous cargo.
So they're allowed to carry hazardous cargo in part of Valdosta?
Yes.
And
It's
so
a
how,
big
so
problem.
how does Atlanta get that restriction, and how could we get a similar restriction?
Is that something to do with legislation?
I don't have, I'd have to find out about that, I do not know. I'm sorry, what is our website? It's sgrc.us. It should be on all that information.
Yeah, it's here.
Now, what happened to the last time when we were in the meeting and you were saying something about creating a second Savannah? You were talking about expanding Savannah, so some of the truck traffic could be diverted.
Well,
Is
that was one of the top alternatives that rose up. However, Savannah Avenue, with increased private investment coming along that corridor, it is not as viable an option. One of the things is you're only moving the problem one block away. You're only moving one block. But as our downtown continues to do pretty well, last I had checked, downtown Valdosta has an occupancy of 90%. That's almost unheard of in retail areas and downtown areas, so we're doing pretty good. And as you continue to have good economic growth in downtown, they're going to continue to expand a little bit. This week we had the groundbreaking of Coleman Talley headquarters in this old Southern Salvage. If you were to improve Savannah Avenue, you would have gone to within a few feet of their new wall, of their new building. Whitehead Hardware, Miller Hardware, they are also looking at expanding downtown, their building, right along Savannah Avenue.
You also got St. Timothy's AME Church.
You got a lot of businesses right along there that are looking at areas. I just saw another proposal today. Someone wants to look at converting one of those other older historic brick buildings right there along Savannah Avenue into an event space.
Isn't that where the brewery is going to be in the old waterworks?
And the brewery is going to be in the old waterworks. That's supposed to happen. So that area of town has seen some increased economic growth, and is that really where you want to put trucks? So that's where that private investment is going. So that's good. Bill?
What about that hotel, new hotel that's supposed to be built?
As far as I know, I don't know much about it. You probably know as much as I do.
Okay, so public transportation, man, tell us something.
Yes, public transportation. One of the how many of you were aware of the pilot shuttle program we operated over the last year and a half or so? Most of you. How many of you have heard that we released a final report on the pilot program, and have you looked at it and read it? Pretty good, number of hands, that's good. One of the things that we were fortunate enough to have, of course, we do not have a fixed route public transit system like many other metropolitan cities do. We currently receive from Congress an annual appropriation of just over $1 million a year to have an urban public transit system. That funding currently goes unused. Last year we used a couple $100,000 of it for a public transit study, but the rest of it is returned to the State Department of Transportation for use in other cities. The Department of Human Services, not the Department of Transportation, last year funded the pilot shuttle program. It was a free service targeted toward the clients of the Department of Human Services. So your DFACS clients, Department of Behavioral Health clients, some Medicaid clients, depending on what services they're allowed to receive, as well as senior citizens and other persons with disabilities, but there's several categories that DHS says that they fit in. But we also, when we worked with them, the funding that they were going to use said that it had to be open to the public. So we put together the pilot shuttle program. So well, maybe we had a lot of comments that we should see what, if you were to start a public transit system, do a pilot program, really see what the data would say. So that's what we did. So for 14 months, we ran a public transit system, a fixed route public transit system, started on a 60-minute route. We received more funding, expanded to 2 routes, each 60 minutes. Then the state came back and said, well, then we don't have quite that much money, so we cut it back to 1 route running 90 minutes in a figure-8 fashion, serving most of the city of Valdosta. We ended up having similar ridership with 1 vehicle on average to what the city of Hinesville has with 3 vehicles on an annualized basis. Our report goes into the details about the actual data that we collected for that pilot shuttle program. One of the things is we were not able to report that data as a transit system, but we collected the data as a transit system. So you will go into this report and see the reports for Albany and Hinesville. We use them as just comparison cities. We publish the exact same format reports as they report to the feds. That way you can compare apples to apples and see how do we really stack up against these cities. We had 14,000 annual riders over that period. Albany has over 1 million. They are a legacy system that they have had decades to build their system. So having 14,000 in 1 year versus 1 million does not shock me by any means, with very limited advertising that we did do. So that report contains a lot of the information you see about the pilot shuttle program. We did a survey of the riders. Over 50% said that if they had a permanent option, they would purchase a monthly pass rather than buying it per trip. Monthly passes, you're going to be charging a whole lot more for unlimited trips, whether they take those trips or not. So that gives you a little bit idea of on financing what that might be. So there's a lot of data in there, probably 40 pages of just data. So I'm not going to go into all that data. I encourage you to look at it though, because there's a lot there. The second thing we looked at was benefit costs. A lot of people ask us, if you start a public transit system, how does it benefit the community? Are you going to see a return? So we had a study that we did last year. Tyndale Oliver was the company we hired to look at public transit in Valdosta. They came back with 2 options, a low estimate and a high estimate, both on budget and ridership estimates. The low is probably what you might expect in the first few years. A high estimate would be if you have very robust ridership, or as you get many years into a system, just gradually building over time. So we did that. We looked at the benefit cost of that kind of system, of those 2 options. We did the benefit cost of the pilot program as well. The pilot program came back with a benefit cost ratio of 1.01. If you're familiar with benefit costs, anything over 1 means that you have a benefit to society. It's not a direct cash benefit to a local entity. It's just saying that based on savings in medical costs, in crash savings, in time savings, in out-of-pocket cost savings for transit riders that would have chose transit over a more expensive taxi option or something like that, there was an overall societal benefit of just over 1.0 for the pilot shuttle program. The high estimates for our transit study, I think, put us up to almost 2.0. The low estimates, I think, were at like 0.89, so more of a cost to the community, but still pretty close to an overall return to the community. The other thing that our study looked at was...
Can I interject
yes.
a question? Did anybody demand that kind of accounting for truck bypass?
I'm sorry, what was that?
Did anybody demand a similar accounting for the truck bypass?
Not at this time.
Yeah, it's funny how public transportation has to justify it in this manner, but roads, not enough roads, we don't have to.
The third chapter looked at some in-depth options for funding public transit. And it goes into quite a bit of detail for many different options. And I'm not going to go into it all. I encourage you to look at it because there is some detail into that in the report. But there's one thing I want to point out, and it's something that means that we need to have a larger conversation. And the councilwoman here tonight, we were in a meeting last week to start having this conversation, and we need to have more of this conversation in our community about public transit. There's an idea allowed in federal law called capital cost of contract. Essentially what that means is a certain percentage of your operations, maintenance, and capital costs of a transit system can be capitalized. So an operations cost and a capital cost, which are two normally separate pieces of a budget, you can turn those operations into capital. And under that means that under federal rules, 80% of your operations costs can be funded, or I'm sorry, a certain percentage of your operations costs can be funded at 80% federal. Traditionally, it is 50% federal. There are 8 scenarios that we walked through in the report for different ways to do this. Anywhere from about $320,000 annually local money on upwards to, I want to say, $450,000, $460,000 locally annually to operate a public transit system. That is not, we're not counting the federal funds in that because that's above and beyond that. We're just talking local funds right there. One thing I do want to clarify though, when you look at that report, the cheapest option may not be the best option for the community. That is a big point of communication and discussion that this community is going to have to discuss. It may actually be better for the community to go with the more expensive option based on the services that you get from the scenarios that the federal law provides you. And with there being 8 options, I really can't at this point. I don't have a favorite, I'll say that. They all have their pros and cons. They're all within about $100,000 of each other. But it's something our community really needs to look at.
So Corey, I have a question. I must be misunderstanding. The community portion of a public transit system could be for $100,000.
Yeah, 400,000 plus or minus.
Plus or minus.
Yes.
For easy math, if we have 100,000 people in our county, that would be $4 per every person. So a household of 2 would pay $8, and a household of 4 would pay $16, and a household. Is that the kind of amount we're talking, like less than $20? It's certainly less than $50 per household to have a transit system?
In the most basic form, the way you're breaking it down, yeah. That's not, maybe not how it would be broken down, but I mean, that's.
Why do we not have one?
Why do we not have one then?
It's also my understanding, 1 mil of property tax yields $1 million.
I think that's a general rule.
In a general rule of thumb. So a half a mil could give us, or a third to a half a mil increase can make that money.
Or a T-SPLOST just for a public transit system in Lowndes County.
What I was trying to.
And let everybody help us pay for it.
I was gonna ask about that because it's my understanding now that what you was giving us, that's number including the county? Because I think with the county, we get federal money with the county. But remember you saying that this would be locally, that we would do everything with it's 400,000.
When I say locally, I'm not saying city or county. I'm saying
The county.
locally, the community in general.
Okay.
Because it has not been determined in our community what entity is going to own that public transit system. It could be the city, it could be the county, it could be an independent authority. Plus, there's 20 other options that we could come up with.
Has anyone spoken with the university, any upper administration? Because this would greatly benefit university students, parents send their kids here, they don't have to have a car, I mean, that it would.
We have talked with them a little bit. VSU has between 700,000 and 1 million riders on their transit system a year already. So those are some options that we need to be very aware of. So in our study, we actually look at partnering with universities, partnering with private businesses. We've had a few comments from businesses that say, we do have a problem getting people to and from our business or work. Would it be an option to say, how about you pay a monthly amount, say $10,000 a month, or maybe $10,000 a year, to provide all of your employees transportation, whether they use it or not? That would be a way to offset that local 400,000-ish amount by getting some of those entities to buy into a public transit system. So, advertising is another form of local revenue. And it seems like I'm forgetting there's another one we talk about in the report. I can't think of it off the top of my head. But this report really is meant to be the starting point of the conversation in the community. We need to make sure that the community is looking at it, asking questions, and having this discussion. Last week, we kicked off an event. We had 10 people there at the most.
Most of the city
officials. Most of the city officials. So we're going to have more conversations with the business community, with everyone out there about public transit, just to have this discussion. We're not looking for answers right now. We need to have a community-wide discussion about this. So if you have groups that you want us to come talk to, have this discussion, let us know. We're happy to come do that.
I really wasn't going to say anything about public transportation, but it was a campaign issue of mine when I ran for mayor. And I did a lot of research on it, and I found out there are a lot of ways to pay for it without touching property tax. I was really impressed with what Florida County Rome does. Florida County school system contract with the city of Rome to pick up kids, high school kids, and bring them to school on city buses. And we've got 2 high schools here that Lowndes and Valdosta do the same thing. We contract with Valdosta and Lowndes to transport high school kids on city buses. The express buses, they only pick up kids, no private passengers or whatever, during peak hours to school and after school. And they've been doing that in Florida County for years. Atlas Clark does something at the University of Georgia, which you was talking about at VSU. Students at the University of Georgia can ride Clark County Transit with a bus pass.
The University of Georgia pays Clark County for that.
Yes.
That's a pretty hefty amount.
Yes, and then,
University of Georgia is a little bit bigger than
but
VSU.
the concept's there,
The concept is definitely there.
and that's another source of revenue from VSU. Because those kids, when they gotta go to Walmart, you know, or wanna go to a movie, they gotta either walk or find some other mode. But the city bus will take them there.
It'll also probably expand the number of places that students could live.
Right,
So
and if they
expansive,
wanna come downtown.
Transportation system, which would, bring parents out, I'm sure, more options for housing.
So there are a lot of options out there, so I just wanted to.
So what we have to do, Chief Rice, is this. We gotta, Mr. Corey is willing to discuss this with the people. So what we gotta do is what we asked Mr. Corey, myself and the other councilmen. We gotta get ministers, people in the city and county to come to one neutral location and let him do this, what he's doing today, and let them ask questions. But how we gonna get them out there? But he had it open to the public last week. Nobody showed up. He's here today. We put it on Facebook. We shared it. Look who's here. But the ones that need the transportation, they're not here. They're not coming to learn about it. That's where you got to get the ministers involved in it.
And they need to
The other politicians involved in it. And you got to come to, if it's going to be held at the city hall, it's going to be at Parks and Rec or whatever. You got to get a neutral location, because you're going to burn him out going from here, talking to 5 people, and you can bring 200 or 300 at one location. That's what we got to do. That's what he's asking for. We can beat him up all day, but if we don't get the people here, they ain't doing no good.
Can I ask a question? That Surface and Transportation Act, was that any kind of way affected by what we're trying to do now? When the Trump administration came in, is that going to stay in place for a while?
Yeah, there have been no changes that President Trump has made to any existing laws at this time for transportation.
So that sustainable stuff that we got going now, as far as the Obama administration, will that carry over for how long? Because he has some executive orders.
I don't know. I don't know all of that. I'm not aware of any changes that have been made. But as of right now, the budget that came out yesterday or today to continue this current year fiscal year funding is just a continuation. So at this time, I'm not seeing a lot of changes, but I think we got to wait and see what is proposed maybe next year for that. So
Have the apartment, student housing apartment complexes that are now providing transportation, have they been contacted, and has the options been presented, them pay instead of them having to hire staff, run their own shuttle vans?
I know one of the apartment complexes last year, when we were doing our study, actually had called and asked when we were going to have public transit. And I said, but it's not anytime soon. And they said, okay, we're going to start our own. We have not engaged them formally necessarily, but there had been a little loose communication like that. But that's another place where we need to make sure we're reaching out to it. And we haven't done that. That's where we're talking about having more meetings to talk about this. I like your idea of one great big one, but whatever it takes. If it takes one great big one, or if it takes 20, I'm here to do that. One last question, and I want to move on to T-SPLOST because I know we've got all kinds of questions on
So
that.
you talk about this 40-page report, we have these big reports. Is there any way to break it down into one page, just for those that have no idea, like graphs and...
We're trying to do that. In fact, we're actually going to we're just invited to do another presentation to the chamber, where we have 5 minutes next week. So the presentation that the councilwoman saw, we're going to do that in a 5-minute presentation. So we're going to have that.
Because that'll be very helpful.
And so make that available to the public.
Yes, it will be on our website. We were just talking today about how we're going to put it together. Because as I just talked to you about that capital cost of contracting, that's a hard concept to put out in a page. So we're really trying to figure out the best way to boil it down as succinctly as possible. because it is a hard concept to convey in short. But yeah, we will.
If you want to offer suggestions, all the stuff he sent around before this meeting is linked into the blog post announcing this meeting. So you can find, there's like 2 sets of slides on different aspects. This stuff on T-SPLOST. So you can look at this stuff and offer suggestions.
Yep. We will take suggestions. So moving into regional T-SPLOST. This was an option that was given to us in the 2010 legislative session. It was tweaked in the 2015 legislative session, and it was tweaked again in the 2017 legislative session. The tweak that was made this year is still awaiting the governor's signature, so it's still floating out there. But overall, what was created was the option for regional sales taxes based on the state service delivery areas, which are the same boundaries as the regional commission. So the regional commission that I'm employed by, that is the same service delivery area that this law applies to. These 18, and yeah, they're on the map there on that little flyer. In February and March of this year, we had 10 counties pass resolutions in support of asking the other counties within this region to form a regional roundtable to formally discuss a regional sales tax. Though once we had 10 counties, which is just a majority of the counties in the region, pass resolutions in support of that, that triggered the State Department of Transportation to formally recognizes that this effort is taking place and start the process by forming this regional roundtable. The roundtable first met 2 weeks ago. The roundtable is made up of the county chairman of each county and one municipal representative from each county. So in our case here in Lowndes County, it is Mayor Gale was elected by the other mayors to represent the municipalities of Lowndes County. That 36-member roundtable met a couple weeks ago. They are responsible for adopting a criteria, let's call it investment criteria, to evaluate a project list from. So they're going to adopt, at the end of this month, a criteria to weight their projects against. They are also responsible for appointing a 5-member executive committee. 5-member executive committee is the group that does the hard work. They are going to actually sit down and go through all the projects that are submitted, vet them, and put them in a financially constrained list that is equal to or less than the revenue estimates produced by the state economist. This is a 10-year tax up to a full 1%. It could be in smaller increments of 0.05%. The roundtable voted last month as well to aim for a May 22nd, 2018 ballot referendum date. There were 2 ballot referendum dates that were an option, the November 2017 date and May 2018. I guess we could have gone on to November 2018, but we limited to those 2. Looking at those, they felt that in order to produce a good project list, it was better to aim for a May date than to rush through the process and aim for a November date. It would have been possible, but it would have been a stressful summer for all of us to rush through that process. So we're aiming for May 22nd, 2018. The roundtable has one more responsibility. The roundtable actually has to call for the referendum. They have not done that yet. So there is no officially date for official referendum yet. They actually have to call for that referendum. And when they do, we'll send Deb a letter and she can start her process But there are many steps that they have to go through this regional process. The regional commission has been asked and authorized to coordinate this effort. The DOT is not coordinating it. There are certain requirements in the law that the DOT must meet, and since the law says the DOT must do it, the DOT is going to do it. But the rest of it, the regional commission is coordinating and facilitating the process. So we've put together an informational website. We're doing presentations like this to various groups throughout the region. So it's a process that is really just starting, and we've got a long ways to go. And I know there's a lot of questions, so I'm going to leave it at that. And Gretchen, you're first.
The largest counties in our region are Coffee and Lowndes.
Tift and Ware are also right up there with Coffee, very similar populations.
Okay. And the last time that we did this, I believe that our county chairman was on the executive committee. Ashley Paul, was he?
He was. That's
and
correct.
do we know who's going to be on that little 5-person bit yet?
We do not. As of today, there have been 17 people nominated or volunteered to serve on that 5-member executive committee. Both Bill Slaughter and John Gill both have volunteered.
Did
So we will see.
Did they all nominate themselves?
Not all 17. I will say that. Not all 17 did.
Now, are these going to be for any capital projects, or are they going to be earmarked for certain things? Or?
No, one of the things that the T-SPLOST law allows, contrary to regular DOT funding. Regular DOT funding is restricted by the state constitution to be roadways and bridges. No public transit, no airports, no railroads, nothing. Roads and bridges, that's it. T-SPLOST, though, allows for roads, bridges, bicycle pedestrian activities, airports, public transit, ports, railroads, if I didn't say that already, freight facilities, and anything that is needed to plan for, design, purchase right-of-way, construct, and operate and maintain those facilities. That's a big thing. You got to operate and maintain what you build. So, one thing I forgot to mention, this regional T-SPLOST law creates 2 pots of money. One is called the 75% regional pot. That's what this investment criteria is being developed for, to select a list of projects from that will use 75% of the revenue. The remaining 25% of the revenue is divided by a formula of population and road mileage back to each local jurisdiction. And each local jurisdiction gets to use that money at their discretion for transportation purposes. Again, it's that broad definition of transportation purposes. At this time, we do not know what the revenue estimate is going to be. 5 years ago when we went through this process, the revenue estimate was $670 million. We, based on current sales tax collections and the Middle Georgia region, which recently is also going through the same process we are, they got their estimates already. Their estimates were down as well, and since sales tax collections are down, we anticipate that we will have something less than $670 million.
There were a couple of regions that did approve this the first time we voted on it. What was their income compared to what their estimate had been?
The regions that did it were Central Savannah area, or Augusta, the Dublin part of Georgia region, and the River Valley or Columbus area. Their revenue estimates, or actual collections, I think are anywhere between 7 and 15% below estimates. Their collections are. So that kind of goes along with our regular SPLOST, our E-SPLOST, they're all down. So that it goes along those same lines.
So am I understanding correctly, one of our projects here in Lowndes County could be a mass transit system?
Technically, it could be. My professional opinion on that, though, is that we have got too much discussion in this community about public transit at this point for a public transit system to be funded by the regional T-SPLOST. We have too many unknowns right now, and I think would be premature for us to put it on the ballot and put it on the project list, and then it not be funded, or what happens after 10 years, who's going to pick up the tab after 10 years if the T-SPLOST is not continued after 10 years. To me, I think we're a little premature for that, and I've let our local officials know that I don't think it's quite ready for us. I also feel the same way about the truck route. I think that we're too early in that truck route discussion for us to include it at this time.
Corey, answer something for me. I'm sorry. I'm a little lost here. So, T-SPLOST would be in addition to money we already get from highway tax?
Yes.
Gasoline?
That is correct.
And also, 2 years ago, the state imposed an increase on gasoline tax specifically. So that'd be 3 sources of revenue that we get money from?
It would only be, well, I come up with 10 or 15 sources of revenue for transportation, but you have the state motor fuel tax. There's only one of those now. The state changed that 2 years ago. And this would be a second major source. But you also have your local SPLOST, you have your property taxes, you have any other federal funds also that go to transportation. So you first, that's all 3 or 4 grades.
Well, ladies always first. Okay, you're saying that it's too early. So if we don't use the money within the 10 years, do we lose it? The funding?
For the regional T-SPLOST?
Yes.
Okay, well, I want to clarify this. The regional T-SPLOST is going to have a project list that's going to have the project you're going to spend that on. It must be spent on those projects within 10 years. Now, you may have a construction period that goes beyond that 10-year period, just because construction takes a little bit of time. When you're talking about public transit, though, let me go take a step back. I said earlier that there was $1 million, or just over $1 million, that we receive currently from the feds. That money does go away. Every year, it goes away.
So
it's been going away since 2003.
Should we act on it right away? What happened to the system you had before? Why not try to rebuild on that? Did you have a bus system? Did Valdosta ever have a system?
There was a system operated by the Zantz family. It ended in 1963, I believe, if I recall.
So for 40 years you've had nothing? Okay, so why not start, like, say, from Clay on Hill, bring it all the way to Walmart, swing it back down Bay Tree, and just start like a skeleton. Just do it like that, and just see what happens. I mean, something beats better, something is better than nothing. Like right now, you don't have anything.
That's right, we do have something. We do have the Lowndes County transit system.
That's for the college.
No, there's the college.
That's for the
unincorporated areas.
The little white, you talking about the little white 14-seater?
Yep, that is a public transit system. Anyone can ride on it.
But you gotta be handicapped in order to get on that. They take you to the doctor.
No.
You talking about the little white one, the little 14-seater?
Yep.
Oh. That's the big.
And that's that brochure that I just handed out. There's a phone number in there for Lowndes County.
But the restriction on that, Corey, make sure that people know that that's for rural to
It is
unincorporated to
as
the.
of right now, currently in Lowndes County, it operates countywide. Lowndes County is currently paying to operate within the city of Valdosta, 100% county.
But you have to call them, right? The bus, okay.
You have to call and schedule a ride.
A bus runs. In Detroit, a bus runs.
right.
This is what you're talking about, is calling, like lip service, like a limousine.
Yep.
Fixed route, fixed times.
Yep.
That's what people need to
Let
have.
me go with you and then,
When you were talking about this regional T-SPLOST, who gets to determine what project gets funded? That's what then, who gets to determine it? Because if it's anything like we have now, where Atlanta gets all the money, we get the crumb, we don't want to be in it.
That's right.
the regional sales tax, the law says that the money that is generated in the region stays within the region. The round table gets to decide the project.
So that's what I'm saying.
And
And the
those-
person who represents us keeps his mouth closed, we get nothing. So that's what I'm asking. Do we get to say so on what projects get funded is what I'm asking?
You can, yes. The law actually specifies that any member of the public can attend any of the executive committee meetings or the roundtable meetings and voice your opinions. There are actually required at least 2 public hearings on the final project list that is developed. And ultimately, you can go to the polls and vote yes or no, whether you want to see that project list funded or not. Unlike a regular SPLOST, where you don't necessarily know the specifics of what projects are going to be funded, sometimes on a SPLOST, they will advertise a very specific project. Other times, they will give you a broad category. For instance, roads and bridges. We're going to do roads and bridges for $10 million. Under the regional T-SPLOST option, 75% of the revenue, you will be able to see those projects before you go and vote.
Okay, but what I'm asking is, at the same time we're voting on something, the other people in the region are voting on it.
You are voting on everyone's project sheet. So someone in Lowndes County is voting on Ware County's projects. Someone in Ware County is voting on Tiff County's projects because it is a popular vote with the region.
Not to put you on the spot, but in your professional opinion, with this list of projects, what's at the top? If transportation in Lowndes County is not, we're the largest county in the group. If the bypass is not, what are the big, what's needed out there?
That's a really good question. One of the things that 5 years ago, we had, US 84 was on that list.
And it's getting done.
133, it's done in our region. Those projects were on our list. I think we're going to see a lot more smaller projects, a lot more bridge maintenance, a lot more road resurfacing, dirt road paving, and I'm talking not necessarily just here in Lowndes County, I'm talking 18 county region wide. There are a few larger projects, but for instance, 2 projects, one in Waycross and one in Tifton, the DOT has killed those projects. Those were both $40 or $50 million projects. They're not going to go to construction at all. So I don't know that there's one great big sexy project out there right now. Now, one may rise to the top through this project selection process. I just don't know what that is right now. I think you're going to see a lot more
I
broad
know like
projects.
Forest Street, these sidewalks, I see trails.
What about the airport?
The airport could be an option. It is an available funding.
Is there still the idea of donor and recipient counties?
Yes. Lowndes County, being the largest retail center, definitely generates more revenue than it may get back. Without looking at, we don't know what the revenue estimate's going to be, and we don't know what the projects are going to be yet. So I can't actually say that there's going to be a donor recipient issue, but Lowndes County by far is the largest generator of revenue.
Well, the reason that I ask is that during the county's budget talks, they were talking about the fact that Lowndes County has seen its sales tax revenue go down, and part of that is because of Dollar Generals. And people go to the Dollar Generals on their local corner over in Brooks and Lanier rather than coming into Lowndes and going to Walmart. And they have seen a reduction. So it's not a reduction of sales tax overall, it's just in our county we've seen it.
We did that's I think a small part of the overall sales tax collection issues. I think there are dozens of issues and not one in particular. We look at sales tax collections in this 18-county region. In the last, or since 2010, sales tax collections in this region are down 7%. That's just not Dollar General's because they're all over the region. Is it Amazon or online shopping? I don't know that can be because the state's revenues are up on their sales tax. So there are lots of issues that I think is going to become a bigger discussion point for our local governments as to where our sales tax collections are going. It's not just one issue, but that's a valid point and it's a discussion we need to have. Bill?
Movie have public-private partnership. Where are we in dealing with that for transportation as far as public-private partnerships?
There really is not any formal public-private partnership with Moody for any form of transportation at this time.
It was a water project.
Yeah. One of the things with Uber coming to town, Moody was very instrumental in that. They really took the lead on making the contacts to get Uber here. They have been very interested in the general discussion of public transit, but not anything formal. They've been interested as any other community stakeholder has been.
And one last thing, and I'll shut up. There was a lawsuit from Volkswagen. Are we going to be able to get any of that money here in Valdosta for the charging stations? Because they're putting them somewhere throughout the country.
I have no clue. I don't know the details of that. Are there any other questions? I think I went way over my 15 minutes.
Let me make sure I've got this clear, because this is bothersome to me. Okay? Eccles, unless we start taxing their marijuana, has no revenue generation. We have it all, so we're not going to get back what we put into it. How much are we going to lose? It's just an estimate. 25%? 50%?
I do not know. And that's one thing, it's kind of being, when you're looking at this 18-county region, a community like Eccles County, it's no secret, they have very little retail sales.
They have none.
So, looking at...
Oh, come on, there's got to be Dollar General over there.
Except the marijuana.
I came from a small community. In their defense, they're coming here to shop. They're 40% of our sales tax revenue. So unless everybody wants to kick in 40 extra% on their sales tax, you can't knock these small counties.
Hey, that's right, that's right.
I mean, they're coming here to spend. They're coming here, and most of them aren't driving over here for work. They're coming over here to shop. And so we get jobs from them, and we get sales tax revenue from them, and we don't have to support them. They go back home. But I don't want to pave their dirt roads.
I think that's a part of this discussion. Where are the revenue generating communities? What's going to be the projects there? What are going to be the projects in those other communities? You know, some of those communities, a bridge may be the project that they want, or maybe it's an intersection that has a history of frequent crashes. Those might be some very simple projects that can go a long way in some of those communities.
They're very small, considering. Relatively.
Well, I was just going to say, what about the people that's calling 911 for minor things? You know, like if we had a bus system, you wouldn't have to go through that. Like say someone, they cut their finger, the child got hurt. Those are minor things. The wasted police department when they're supposed to be fighting crimes and you're doing a 911 call for that unnecessarily, wasting taxpayers' money.
I don't know if anybody saw, I'd say 3 or 4 months ago, WLB did a story on this in Albany. They didn't look at any other
About
community.
calling in 911
Yes.
unnecessarily?
They call them frequent flyers, and I don't know if that's, I know you were, being a first responder, maybe did the same thing. In Albany, I want to say they estimated that it costs between $90 and $110 to dispatch an ambulance versus the cost to operate a transit system. The pilot shuttle program ran for between $55 and $85 an hour. So
But you say it only ran for 14 months though, right?
it only ran, but what I'm trying to say is, it is cheaper to run a public transit system than to dispatch your first responders.
Amen.
That is a growing concern. We have not looked at the data yet. This year, one thing the Regional Commission has to do is we have a contract with the Department of Transportation to write rural transit development plans. We just finished up one for Coffee County. We're looking at a couple more, and we're going to try to do an analysis on this in Cook County. We're trying to, which community we're going to look at. We want to try to do it on Cook County. We're not quite ready to look
Where's
at
this Cook
Lowndes.
County? Is that Adel?
Adel, yeah.
And what's this other, we keep talking about coffee, where's that, Tipton?
That's Coffee is Douglas.
Douglas, oh, Pearson, okay.
Yeah, up past Pearson, yeah.
We need to cut it off here. I know we could keep Corey here for hours, but I know he has things to do. We want to take Corey. We appreciate you taking time out.
And I can stay around.
Go ahead on behalf of the party and give you an invitation to come back in the future, and we can continue. And I'm sure as we go down the line, we'll have more questions, more concern, and we find out more information about it. It's been very educational, very informative. I think we're all better off tonight than we were before we walked in here about where we're going.
Can I say one thing to wrap up? One of the things that this regional T-SPLOST has kind of shown is making sure we have the information, the facts out there for people to be educated and informed. I encourage you to, not just for transportation, look up the facts on your own. Our website is a tremendous resource, especially on the T-SPLOST. If you've got questions, please ask. We have seen much reporting in newspapers here recently that is just wrong.
Are you surprised?
I'm not going to go there. But I encourage you, make sure to let people know that there are resources out there, that we're really trying to put just the facts out there. We are actually developing here, hopefully have by next week, frequently asked questions on the regional T-SPLOST. Because we've started to hear some doozies that are just, I don't know where they're getting it from. So I encourage people to look up the facts.
Thank you for it. All right. Now, we need to move on, and members wish you to be heard.
I have just, don't forget that we have these lovely thank our teachers signs. They are $10 a piece. Thank you to those who have been selling them at a brisk pace. We need to refund what we borrowed from our coffers to make Jim happy, and then we can sell some more. So
Well, I came prepared tonight by 2.
came tonight. Okay, awesome. So Jim brought these over for us. Thanks, Jim. Get a sign.
I just want to report that if you have a problem with Valdosta, we have Valdosta Click Fix. That's something everyone should be able to have on your phone. If you want to report anything, a pothole, you see a bush down in the street, you see anything going on within Valdosta, you can use this, take a picture of it. You can do it anonymously. You don't have to have your name on it. If you want your name on it, you can. And within, let's say between 24 to 48 hours, you should get an answer back with the city president.
It's a good turnover, 24, 48.
It's a great app. It's a wonderful way to report really currently if anything.
What is the app called?
I used it a couple of times, and I am impressed with it. I reported some trash in my neighbor's yard, trash cans that have been out for several days, and I'd say in less than 24 hours, they actually responded and took care of it.
Good job, good job.
This coming Saturday at 10 a.m. at Birdie's downtown, we're going to be hosting Fred Swan. Fred Swan's coming down, and he is a potential candidate, or if he raises the funds for the District 8 House seat. If he reaches a certain amount, he will run against Austin Scott. It's at 10 a.m. this coming Saturday at Birdie's Market downtown.
Patterson.
Upstairs.
That we've reserved his space, so he's willing to come and take questions, talk about his platform.
Could you clarify who is the we?
Who is the we?
Indivisible. It's a group. It's another group that a grassroots group that started up in Valdosta, resisting the Trump agenda. So and supporting progressive causes.
If we could, we could be there and get the word out there. We need to have somebody challenge Austin Scott.
Yes, we did.
This Saturday, I'm running for city council district 4. I'll be having our official kickoff at the park here on Venus, right beside Sunny, from 1 to 4.
Taylor Cow Park.
Yeah, Taylor Cow. Me and our team, we went out Saturday, we reached 200 homes. You'd be surprised how many people believe in what the Democratic Party has to say. It just takes a knock on the door that speak to it. And you can see, like I said, Donald Trump has done a good job on making it.
For those of us who are bad on names and for the camera, could you say your name?
Eric Howard.
Thank you.
Anybody else?
Yes. I must apologize to the Lowndes County government. What I said earlier was not entirely correct. I went and looked, and you can find their board application thing. Look on lowndscounty.com, look on the menu under services, then under boards and authorities. And it turns out under 15 different boards and authorities down at the bottom of the page. And in fact, more than that, it has the board application form. And for 15 of them, it actually says when the terms of the members expire. Not the Board of Elections, you're safe. And for example, Animal Control, which is a board that was created partly at the insistence of the Lowndes County Democratic Party, it actually has a vacant slot on there. And also serving on there is Amanda Hall, who lobbied for creation of that thing. So if you wanted to be on a board or authority, there's also openings coming up on the Planning Commission, on Zoning Board of Appeals, on the Development Authority, on KLDB, some Vivian code person. And so if you want to apply through the county for one of these things, just go to lowndscounty.com, under the menu, look up services, boards and authorities, pick the one you care about, figure out when there's an opening, send in your application, and then I strongly recommend you also talk to your commissioner and find somebody on the board to talk to. So you can actually get in your application through the county. I am shocked and surprised, and I must compliment the county. It hurts me to say that. Anybody on the Public Relations Committee for example, Eric Howard or Shannon, who would like to meet after this meeting, please come over to this corner.
Anyone else? A couple things. Today is May Day. We honor all people in the workforce. This is our day. Those of us who work, have worked, celebrating that. And one housekeeping item I'd like to bring up, and I need you guys to help me with this. Great work. There was a impeach Donald Trump rally last week downtown, and there is a rumor floating around that was in conjunction with the Lowndes County Democratic Party. We had no part in that. We don't oppose what he did. Don't get me wrong. They have the right to express their views like anybody else, but we don't want people misrepresenting what we do or misrepresenting us. That was not sanctioned by us. It wasn't authorized by us, it was in conjunction with us in no form or fashion. We had no part in that. Now, if somebody went as an individual who happens to be a Democrat, that's their constitutional right. But as a party, we had no part in that. So if anybody say to you that I heard the Lowndes County Democratic Party is supporting or sponsored or in cahoots, whatever word you want to use, with the impeachment Donald Trump rally, that's simply not true. If someone posted something on our Facebook page, they did it without authorization. If they post anything on our website, they did it without authorization. I'm not saying it happened. I'm just telling you, if somebody did or would do, and don't clear it through the party, it's without authorization. Anything we do as a party will be brought before the membership and voted on by the members. And if the members so choose to do it, then we'll do it that way. If not, we won't do it. So I just want you to help me spread the word in case somebody hits you with the rumor that they hit me with today that impeach Donald Trump rally was sanctioned by sponsored by the Lowndes County Democratic Party. That's simply not true. Whether or not, ma'am,
I was hit by the same day. That's why I wasn't there. So I was there. I was a little bit lost at the same time. Like, you know, I was nowhere.
no, it was not. We had nothing to do with it. Now, whether Donald Trump needs to be impeached or not, that's my personal belief.
There's no way anyone can get that assumption. I mean, there's nothing about
you'll be surprised.
the Democratic Party.
You'll be surprised.
Oh, they just want to lie about it.
Well, you know, sometimes they'll see a familiar face. They may associate with the party and say, oh, the Democratic Party must be sanctioned.
Yeah, that's what I'm
Well, and you know, we have to remember what the mission of the Lowndes County Democratic Party is. It's to identify, qualify, and elect Democrats. That's what this group does. We identify, qualify, and elect Democrats. And I mean, we do a lot of other things too. We, you know, support the platform planks that we have. And in doing that, then we elect people who support those planks. But that's what we do. We elect Democrats.
And Eric Howard was saying a lot of people agree with what the Democratic Party is about when they know about it. We got a couple of great video clips of our chairman talking about things that that Democrats have to be proud of and what Democrats stand for, which we're going to be sticking on the website and on Facebook shortly, so that people have a better idea of what Lowndes County Democratic Party stands for.
Well, there's been a lot of interest in what we're trying to do, and that's a good thing. We got some positive things going, and we just keep going. I think the greatest idea we got going now are these yard signs.
Yes.
Yeah, it's going to snowball. Trust me, it's going to snowball, and it's going to do something that makes all of us proud. And anybody can have one of these. You don't have to be a Democrat to buy one.
Really, that should be a nonpartisan issue.
Exactly.
Yes.
Nothing stops some other party from making similar yard signs, but we're doing it.
Right.
All right. Next regular meeting, Monday, the 5th of June. Lowndes County Barbecue coming up. Now, we do need volunteers to help. And we need volunteers specifically to help put up decorations on July 6th at 10 a.m. And we need folks to help clean up, and we need people to help sell tickets. Those 3 items there. Set up, clean up, and ticket sales. So if you'd like to sign up or help out, get with Gretchen.
Now get with JD.
Get with Gretchen, and she'll be happy to write down your name and or get with me. We'll both do it, so we need to do that. And I've been speaking with Congressman Bishop, staff of Bishop's office. I talked with Michael Bryant twice about it, and he's trying to get the congressman to come and speak to us on that night. I think that'll be a great marquee item to get him to come. I think it'll help increase ticket sales and some interest. My thing, I was telling Michael, what I like to hear from the congressman is his take on why the state Democratic Party and the National Democratic Party sort of forgot about the rural areas in this last presidential election. We talked about it here, and we strongly feel that one of the reasons Hillary Clinton didn't win Georgia is that she did not do anything in the rural areas. I think that could have made a difference had she thought about sending somebody to Valdosta, Columbus, or Savannah, or Macon, or Albany, or Waycross, or Tilton, or maybe y'all stop when you get tired. But somebody to the rural areas, and that's the ground base of the Democratic Party. It's the local people. You know, you got everybody inside of 285. That's fine, but there's only one Georgia. Regardless of how people feel about Atlanta, Atlanta's still in Georgia. It still has a 303 zip code. It still has a 404 area code. The state capital is still in Atlanta for all of Georgia. So regardless of how folks feel about that 285 loop, you're still a Georgia. And they want to kills me when people say, well, you're so far away. I tell them it takes just as long to drive to Atlanta from Valdosta as it does to drive from Valdosta to Atlanta. You'll be amazed. I know I'm going uphill, but remarkably I get there the same length of time. But we need to get our ticket sales going for our barbecue, and I'm looking forward to a great time, and hopefully the Congress